blessed good morning, and welcome to our devotions for today. Indeed, a joy as always to spend these early hours of the morning together. And as we do so this morning, I trust that you would have had a beautiful night, and that you're all ready for this new day, to see what this day has in store for you. And I want to invite you to come into this day from a place of beginnings. See to what extent you can go into today with little or no baggage from yesterday. See to what extent you can go in today without thinking of tomorrow. But just for as long as you can do it, just be present to the zero nature of this morning hour, where we haven't really encountered much. And even those of you who might be watching this during the course of the day, if you could just stop for a while and just come to that zero place where there's no thought of what happened a few moments ago or what is to happen after you've listened to this devotion, but just being right here, right now, for these few moments, and just being still. Being still and acknowledging the presence of God. Being still and being open to the divine love of God. Being still and going deep. Like a diver who puts around his waist weights, and then he jumps into the water and just allows himself or herself to descend. Bit by bit, just descending under the weight of the waist belt, just descending into the unknown. I want us to have that vision in our minds at this time, where we're just descending into that place where there is no busyness, no activity, just the stillness, just the peace, just the peace. And we allow ourselves to go deep into that peace. That sense of the inner being, the true self, the uncorrupted, the original self. As Jesus was walking along, he saw a man called Matthew sitting at the tax booth, and he said to him, "Follow me." And Matthew got up and followed him. And as he sat at dinner in the house, many tax collectors and sinners came and were sitting with him and his disciples. When the Pharisees saw this, they said to his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" But when Jesus heard this, he said, "Those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick. Go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. For I have come to call not the righteous, but sinners." Then the disciples of John came to him, saying, "Why do we and the Pharisees fast often, but your disciples do not fast?" And Jesus said to them, the wedding guests cannot mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them, can they? The days will come when the bridegroom is taken away from them, and then they will fast. No one sews a piece of unshrunk cloth on an old cloak, for the patch pulls away from the cloak, and a worse tear is made. Neither is new wine put into old wineskins. Otherwise the skins burst and the wine is spilled, and the skins are destroyed. But new wine is put into fresh wineskins, and so both are preserved.
Who can cheer the heart like Jesus? By his presence all divine, true and tender, pure and precious. Oh, how blessed to call him mine. Oh, that thrills my soul is Jesus. He is more than life to me, and the fairest of 10,000 in my blessed Lord I see. Love of Christ so freely given, grace of God beyond degree.
As we continue our reflection on the desire, I want to know Christ, I want to bring us to our next stage, because we're basically trying to use the analogy in the sense of how do we get to know another. We spend time with that person. We speak to that person in the form of our conversation. And today I want us to look at the next aspect of that, coming to know. And that aspect is the ability to listen. To listen. When we are desirous of knowing the other, we need to listen to the other. In the same sense, when we take our deep dive and we go within, we need to listen. Because oftentimes when we don't listen, we are coming with our own understanding or our own perception, our own idea about who a particular person is, what others have said about that person. And there is much that has been said about the Christ, about that Christ itself. But you have that aspect of you that is the Christ itself. And only you can discern that. It may not appear like what others say it is like, because you are unique. And so in order to grasp or to know this unique Christ itself that you are, you have to listen. You have to learn to listen to that self and that self alone in order to be able to know Christ. In the passage for today, one of the striking experiences that Jesus encounters in the passage is from John's disciples. They have been taught a way of how you're supposed to engage the world. You're supposed to fast often. So they're asking Jesus, why is it that his disciples aren't fasting? And Jesus says, because their situation is different. Their situation is unique. They've got me here with them. A time will come when I will not be here. He uses the analogy of the bridegroom. You don't fast when the bridegroom is around because you are having a celebration. So Jesus is saying, I am here. There is no need for them to engage in such austere practices because I am here. There will always be persons telling us how we should experience the Christ itself. But they can't. Because your experience of the Christed One is completely different to mine. The Christed One shows up in your life as you, not as me. So there is a vital need for us to learn to listen, to know what is necessary, to be aware, to be conscious, not to make a judgment of the self. This journey of ours is a journey of healing. It's your healing and it's my healing. And a big part of that healing is the letting go of what we amass through our experiences, which are supposed to lead us into the Christ presence. But oftentimes they act as a block to the Christ presence. The Pharisees and those in Jesus' day are intended to lead persons into an awareness of God. But here they were in this particular passage complaining that Jesus is eating with tax collectors and sinners. Missing the point. And Jesus says, those who are whole don't need a physician, but those who are sick. It's a broken world. And we're all broken. We're all in need of the healing love of God. But that healing love of God is found not outside of ourselves, but is found within ourselves. All our efforts to look for that healing love of God outside of ourselves causes nothing but sorrow and pain and disease. Our efforts should be spent looking within ourselves and trusting that journey and allowing that journey to unfold moment by moment through our constant listening with greater and greater degree so that we hear where we are being called, and that in hearing we follow the path to that Christ itself. This is the work of knowing Christ. Learning to listen to that still voice that calls on us to hear, that calls on us day by day to be present to ourselves, be present to all that is around us, be present. And in listening, we draw closer.
Mercy higher than the heaven, deeper than the deepest sea. Oh, that thrills my soul is Jesus. He is more than life to me, and the fairest of 10,000 in my blessed Lord I see. crystal flowing river, with the ransomed I will sing, and forever, praise